Hi there, welcome to my channel. I'm here. As a NASA astrophysicist, I often get asked, what would happen if Earth were pulled into a black hole? The answer is both terrifying and fascinating. So let's dive in. A black hole is one of the most awe-inspiring phenomena in the universe. It is an area in space where gravity is so strong that nothing can escape its pull, not even light. But how exactly does a black hole form? To understand what would happen to Earth if it fell into a black hole, we first have to understand what a black hole is and how it's formed. All stars are born from giant clouds of gas and dust. As these particles begin to collapse under their own gravity, they form a ball of hot plasma that will eventually become a star. When a star is born, it has a lot of energy. This energy keeps the star from collapsing under its own gravity. However, all stars have a limited amount of fuel, and as the star uses up its fuel, it begins to run out of energy. When this happens, the star begins to collapse under its own gravity. The collapse continues until the star is small enough for nuclear fusion to occur. Nuclear fusion is the process by which stars produce energy. It's the process that powers the sun and all other stars. When a star runs out of fuel, it can no longer produce energy through nuclear fusion, and it collapses further. Eventually, the star becomes so dense that not even light can escape its pull. This is what we call a black hole. The size of a black hole is known as its radius or Schwarzschild radius. If an object were to cross this boundary, it would never be able to escape the black hole's gravitational pull. This region is called the event horizon. Once something crosses the event horizon, it can never come back out. This means that if Earth were to cross the event horizon of a black hole, it would be pulled into the black hole and would never be seen again. But before we get to that point, some very interesting things would happen. As Earth approached the black hole, the tidal forces would become more and more extreme. Tidal forces are the difference in gravitational pull between two objects. The closer the objects are to each other, the stronger the tidal force. In the case of a black hole, the tidal forces would be incredibly strong because the gravitational pull near the event horizon is so extreme. These tidal forces would start to stretch and distort Earth. They would pull the planet into a long, thin shape like spaghetti. This is what we call spaghetti. The gravitational pull would be so strong that it would literally pull Earth apart. But that's not all. The black hole would also start to distort the fabric of space. Space-time is a four-dimensional continuum that combines space and time into one. The black hole's gravitational pull would warp space-time so much that it would make Earth appear frozen in time at the edge of the black hole. To an outside observer, it would look like Earth was stuck in a time warp. For those inside Earth, however, time would continue to pass normally. It would feel like just a few seconds had passed since they entered the black hole's event horizon. However, if they were to turn around, they would see that centuries or even millennia had passed on the outside. Finally, Earth would cross the event horizon and be pulled into the black hole. At this point, all communication with the outside world would cease. We would have no way of knowing what happened next. This is because once something crosses the event horizon, there is no way for information to escape the black hole. This means that we would never know what happened to Earth or its inhabitants. Now that we know how a black hole is formed and what would happen to Earth if it were to approach one, let us take a look at what would happen if Earth were to actually fall into a black hole. As Earth approached the black hole, the gravitational pull would become stronger and stronger. This would cause the planet to speed up. Eventually, Earth would be traveling at a speed close to the speed of light. At this point, the planet would be in free fall towards the black hole. The tidal forces would start to rip Earth apart, stretching it into a thin noodle shape. Then Earth would cross the event horizon and disappear from view. Once Earth crossed the event horizon, it would continue to be pulled towards the center of the black hole. Eventually, Earth would reach the singularity. The singularity is the center of the black hole, and it's a region of space where the known laws of physics break down. We don't know exactly what happens at the singularity, but we do know that it's a point of infinite density. This means that if Earth were to fall into a black hole, it would be crushed into an infinitely small point. But what would happen to the people on Earth? Well, they would experience something called this is when the gravitational forces are so strong that they stretch your body into a thin strand. Basically, they would be pulled apart atom by atom. But what if we were to survive somehow? What would we see if we looked up into the sky? we would see a tunnel of stars. This tunnel would be so strange and surreal that it would look like a gateway to another world. In fact, some astronomers believe that black holes could be gateways to other universes. If this were true, then we could travel to other universes by falling into black holes. It sounds crazy, but there's actually some evidence to support this idea. In 2017, researchers at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton used data from the Event Horizon Telescope to capture the first ever image of a black hole. The image showed a bright ring of light surrounded by a dark central region. This dark central region is the shadow cast by the black hole's event horizon. But when the researchers analyzed the image, they found something strange. There seemed to be a small amount of light coming from inside the event horizon. This was impossible, since nothing could escape the gravitational pull of the black hole. The only possible explanation was that the light was coming from another universe. Of course, this is just one interpretation of the data, but it's an intriguing possibility nonetheless. Maybe black holes really are gateways to other universes. And maybe if we were to fall into one, we would find ourselves in a whole new world. But what if we were to fall into a black hole that didn't lead to another universe? What would we see? We would see a tunnel of stars. This tunnel would be so strange and surreal that it would look like a gateway to another world. But after a while, the tunnel would start to get darker and darker. Eventually, it would become pitch black. This is because the gravitational pull of the black hole would become so strong that it would start to trap light. We would be surrounded by complete darkness. If we were still alive at this point, we wouldn't be for long. Eventually, the gravitational pull would become so strong that it would start to crush us. We would be crushed until we became a pancake-like shape. Then we would be pulled apart, atom by atom. In short, falling into a black hole would be a horrible, terrifying experience. But it would also be an amazing, awe-inspiring journey. We would see things that we never thought possible. We would witness the true power of the universe. And at NASA, we study black holes, not just to understand them, but to understand space, time, and the destiny of our universe. Every discovery brings us closer to the truth. Who knows what we might find if we were to send a spacecraft into a black hole? Perhaps we would find a new universe, or perhaps we would find the answers to the biggest questions in cosmology. One day, we hope to send a manned mission into a black hole. It would be a dangerous, risky mission, but the rewards would be beyond anything we can imagine. So what would happen if Earth were pulled into a black hole? We would vanish. But in that cosmic darkness, we may also discover the doorway to new truths about the universe. The real question is, are we ready to face them? Our universe is vast and mysterious, and we are just beginning to understand it. There's so much out there that we do know, and so much that we have yet to discover. But one thing is for sure, the journey of discovery will be an exciting one. Thanks for watching.